Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where we talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Reginald the Vampire. A great episode. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. I'm always a fan of, the journey of self-discovery, and also the journey you think you're taking isn't the journey you end up undertaking. The end result. Obviously it's not always about the destination, it's about the journey, and obviously it's a little bit of both, obviously, in this regard. But Reginald came looking for Abraham, feeling like he had nothing left. He had kind of burned all bridges. He kind of destroyed and blew up his life. So for him, he thinks in the long run, it's like, if I can become human again, maybe I can fix everything, because he feels like by becoming human again, he can find his salvation and make up for everything. Because it's like, for him, it's like, my life went into the crapper the moment I became a vampire, the moment I became a monster. And so he meets up with a dude named Jenkins, which I immediately was like, all right, because Reginald could tell he wasn't a vampire, but I was like, because I guess vampires wouldn't want an old dude. I guess maybe that's why, or maybe just vampires can sense that in other people. I guess it's like, maybe vampires just have a certain vibe to them, or like a maybe very scent. But I was like, because the entire time I'm like, okay, the thing is going to be that Jenkins is actually, he's actually, Abraham, isn't he? But it turns out he's not. He's an old guy. Initially, he's like, right, he wanted to find Abraham because he wanted to find a better ticker. And it's like, right. Both him and Reggie go on this journey. They enter this place. There's no like doors, windows, or anything. It's like, what is this place? It looks like it's a bar. We kind of hear about a little bit about Abraham's story, and obviously that includes Stanley, Nikki's friend that was sent to kill him, because it seems like by all accounts, Abraham has always been a pretty cool dude, but Logan's kind of a douchebag that wanted power and was like, oh, I see you have power, I want that. So it was always kind of like someone coming after him because of that. And so no one knows whether or not Abraham's actually still alive or not. And Reggie follows Stanley through this elevator, but he just kind of phases through it, but they can't. But then we kind of find out about that later on. But I did like, because Reggie is who he is, and that's also the point, it's like, of this Odyssey, to pass these trials, these tests, is the fact is of making him have some self-awareness, but also to make him utilize what makes him great as a vampire. Like, it's something that makes him stand apart, is his brain. He's a very smart dude. So he figures out that basically this hotel or whatever, it's like a human body, and the people coming after them, the reason why they've said the things that they've said, why they're treating Reginald and Jenkins like that, it's like, oh, they're red blood cells trying to fight the virus, the infection that is us stepping into this metaphorical body. And they were going to get Jenkins, and Jenkins was like, right, you go on, leave me. But Reginald's like, no, I'm not worth saving, like, please take me instead. And it's like, right, you passed the trial, like, being selfless, saying that you are the hero I've been looking for. But for Reginald's like, I'm not a hero, because he looks at, and I think that's the beautiful thing of, like, yes, you've made mistakes, but you can't, like, if you have the opportunity to make up for them, like, we all have the chance, to make up for some of the mistakes we've made. And that's all you can do, is try your best to make up for them. Because for Reggie, obviously, it's the whole Todd situation first and foremost. And then, obviously, Todd was like, yeah, I'm your friend. But Reggie's like, no, you weren't. He's like, oh, here you are making an opportunity to make a factor. It's like, we were never friends. I just glamored you into being my friend. And it's like, yeah, but you were a bully. He's like, yeah, and you were a murderer. But for him, it's like, why you're trying to act like you were the good guy the entire time. And he's like, all right, fine, I'm not the good guy, I'm a bad guy. And he's like, there you go. It's like this self-realized, well, I guess it's because maybe on some level, I don't know, I guess that part of the trial was to make him realize, like, Reggie wants to make it seem like he is this perfect, like, oh, I'm the good guy. I mean, I guess that's almost supposed to lead into the people who are like, oh, girls don't like the good guys. It's like, those could end up being like, the stereotype is like, it's like, right, you're putting up a front, you're trying too hard to be a good guy. And it's like, it's okay to not just, you don't have to be perfect or anything, but I think it's just Reginald's making it seem like life was kind of done unto him, and not recognizing his own faults, his own mistakes. He kind of wants to blame other people, right? But also I think there is the aspect of, there is this self-hatred going on there. And especially when it came to Sarah, he's like, I'm sorry, I couldn't tell you. But she's like, you could have explained, you could have told me the truth, but telling me the truth was the harder you took the easy road of deception. You were going to make me forget everything. And once again, I brought it up last episode. Him glamoring her to forget everything just to fix everything was bullshit. That wasn't right. And it's a good thing it didn't work out, because it's like, that's a nasty, dark road you could go down. Like, once again, I made the comparisons to Legion without really going into spoilers, but I'm sure you can extrapolate by the context of why I'm using it. That ends up being I think I might have went into spoilers about it, but maybe I didn't. I don't think I got into very specifics, but once again, using Legion, the TV show, as an example, like there's an element of that very similar circumstance between David and Sid with the whole Sarah and Reggie thing. And then it's like, yeah, that is messed up to have them like basically mind control. She's like, you're going to take my thoughts. Like, all you had to do was tell me the truth, or at least explain. It's like, because the fact is, he didn't give Sarah an opportunity to ever, she could make a decision on her own if he ever told her the truth. But it's like, right, you took the easy route. You tried to deceive, you tried to take my memories. And so for her, she's like, I can forgive you. And he's like, really? And she's like, there, I can deceive, I can lie too. So, and the book he was reading, it was, what was the many sins of Reginald or whatever? The many sins of Reginald Andres. And he's kind of got like this, his face is kind of photoshopped on like a Adonis type body, kind of like a Fabio type body. And across from him is like Nikki on the front cover. But then the next place, the entire time Maurice was there, I was like, oh, he can't be real. But I'm like, oh, it actually is Maurice. I was like, that's interesting. Reggie's like, how'd you get here? He's like, I took the stairs. I was like, I guess because this was never your trial. And I guess like maybe on some level, the trial knew that Reggie needed you by his side to kind of talk some sense into him. Because it's like, right, you missed the assessment. I was able to plead for more time. He's like, and I don't like to beg, but he's like, yeah, this is all we get. We end up finding out the assessment's in 5 days now. And it's like, this is the only chance we get. There are no more afters. Because it's like, if this doesn't go, you've missed the assessment again, we're both dead. But for Reggie, it's like, yeah, I'll find a loophole around it. If I become human again, I won't need to take the assessment, so the whole thing will be off the board. But also, who knows if that's necessarily going to work? Because they might just go like, okay, because you broke the contract and we're still up here on our end, we might not be able to kill you as a human, which maybe they still could. I'm sure there's red tape around them doing that, but it's like they still could go after at least Maurice. But also, once again, it's like people that you care about, like Sarah, like Claire, could get caught up in all of this. I don't know if Nikki would technically fall into that category considering where they are, but But for Reggie, they're confronted with all these vampires, the stereotypes of vampires, and he's just, I forgot, he's like, I don't know whether we should fight them or give them candy, and it's just kind of like, yeah, it is kind of effed up. You're like, all right, that is like, nothing utilizes the very old school classic like vampire tropes and stuff like that. Like it is interesting, like the very like, oh, the makeup and the cape, and it's such an old school, like one of the last times I remember ever seeing a version of that type of vampire might have been, oh god, was it Leslie Nielsen's like Dracula, the comedy horror movie, or even Brooklyn and Vampire the Vampire in Brooklyn, oh, I said Brooklyn and Vampire, the Vampire in Brooklyn, the Eddie Murphy movie with Angela Bassett. That movie might have been the last movie I can think of off the top of my head that really utilized kind of like an old school like Dracula. But I mean, obviously we're talking like the paint, like the cape and everything, like obviously like a Halloween costume. And the next trial was a leap of faith, because it's like, right, like Reggie's continuing to use the body metaphors, like this is the next level of security coming after us. And they walked into Hellfire, and they ended up finding Abraham. It's like, right, this whole following Stanley thing, the reason why Stanley isn't just a ghost, Stanley is a projection, because on the moment of impact of the stake heading towards his heart, Abraham froze time. Like, so all Stanley is basically a loop, and Abraham's been stuck like this for God knows how long. I don't remember. Nikki might have specified last episode how long ago that was. But yeah, the fact is that he's been stuck in this loop this entire time. like the whole trial thing is meant to keep anyone away who might show still trying to kill him, because no one knows for sure. Like, right, whoever came after Abraham in the past is like, Stanley seems to have been the last person. Well, that got that close. Everyone else has probably been pulled away and pushed away or taken care of by the trials, by like these mental projections that he's created. It's like, wow, he's extremely powerful. And obviously Reggie's like, right, you're the one that can do this, Maurice. But it's like, no, Reggie, you're the hero. You know, he's like, yes, you've made your mistakes, but you know, obviously he's the one that's come this far. He's the one that's overcome the trials. He's the one, this whole thing was about strengthening his heart, his resolve. And he ended up saving Abraham. I mean, everyone already thought Stanley was dead already. So it's like, it's kind of sad that, you know, it's like, well, I'm sure Nikki would be happy to know he's alive. But the problem is, though, you also can't leave Stanley alive, because if you left him alive, he would have told other people, especially let Logan know that Abraham was still alive. So it's like, right, we got to keep that a secret. Once again, everyone already thinks Stanley's dead anyway. So, you know, once again, I don't know if he still cares for Nikki. She was always kind of mean to an end, but I think there was some part of him that kind of cared about her. Obviously, his true feelings are towards Sarah. So it's like, I don't know how he should really, how Reggie actually feels about killing Stanley. It's like, it is what it is. Everyone already thought you're dead, so I don't care. Or is it just a thing of, you know, I don't know. He was a bad guy too, so it's like maybe it didn't matter. But yeah, Abraham reveals a lot, you know, kind of like the origins of vampires and stuff, that he even calls himself a Nephilim. So I was like, oh, interesting, knowing that it's used in this context. Obviously, my prior experience, well, because it depends. Like, you know, you use DMC Devil May Cry, the one that people didn't like. A Nephilim is half angel, half demon. Then you go like the Supernatural, the TV show route. Nephilim is human, half angel. In this case, it's half vampire, half angel, which I don't know if we ever got into the circumstances of how the hell that necessarily worked out. Like, he never really went into his origin specifically, but that's why he has like the godlike powers he has. I'd actually skipped over a second because I was like, I knew I was missing something in this journey of self-discovery. But obviously the whole point is that an important lesson that I actually skipped over, and I think is kind of a crux of this, is Reggie was like, right, my life was better the moment before I became a vampire. But it's like, no, it wasn't. Like, that's always been your thing. Like, you've always wanted to like blame, like, rather than fixing your mistakes, you always just kind of run away. You never own up. You never take responsibility for your mistakes. You're even doing it now. You've continued to do it ever since you became a vampire, being like, yes, like, you're being this gluttonous person, this and that. You always want to put it on being a vampire. It's like, all of those are issues he had beforehand. They just transferred over to him being a vampire. It's like, I love it. It's like, right, you thought you'd be cool, suave, like swashbuckler hero, cool guy. It's like, no, that's only Keanu Reeves can do this. Oh, he's so awesome. He's so cool. It's like, yeah, he is. But it's the whole point of you prayed for your life to be different because you think like your life was going to be something great. It's like, no, like your life was always going to be in a certain way, but like becoming a vampire gave you a new fresh start, but you never took advantage of it. You were too prideful to like utilize it. You were too much of a coward to actually use this like new opportunity given to you. Kind of squandered it, you know. You never thought about, man, how being a vampire could make you a better person, could change you for the better. I mean, in certain aspects it worked out for you, because with Maurice, like a whole thing, like you asked Sarah out, you never would have done that as a human. It gave you confidence. But there's also that aspect of, you know, it's like, it's the thing of, I don't think you have to completely lose yourself in being a vampire. But I think that's also the thing of like, maybe in this case, it was a better situation to kind of lose some parts of yourself, because once again, I feel like I'm not sure how you're supposed to take a lot of the stuff of like, right, you're a bad guy. Like, oh, you want to, like, you are a vampire, embrace what you are, don't run away from it. And yes, it can be scary. Yes, you can do some bad. You've made some mistakes, but yes, take the vampire that you are and embrace it and do good with it. Find an opportunity to make up for the past. Make up for your mistakes. Don't run away. But anyway, circle back to the conversation I was having earlier. This obviously the whole vampires and human thing ties back to Cain and Abel, which I thought was kind of interesting, like the whole like loop that they were caught in. I don't really know many things that I've ever really kind of dabbled in. I think the closest would be like what I know of the story of Sandman, and that's just season 1 of the TV show. Obviously, like Abel never killed Cain, but Cain kills Abel like all the time. And that's the whole shtick, right? Well, it turns out in their case, Cain killed Abel. God brought Abel back. Abel killed Cain. God brought Cain back, but it just ended up being this loop of violence. So God like ended up splitting things and ended up giving Abel light and giving Cain darkness. And obviously Cain becomes like eventually would be the ancestor to the vampires, the first murderer, and obviously Abel, the first victim, would eventually become humans are descendants from him. So it's interesting to see that parallel, obviously. So it seeing like obviously tying like vampirism. I mean, maybe other things have done that too, but I've never really known much vampirism that's really like stemmed from like biblical elements like that. So I just thought that was such a a very fascinating approach. So. But also because of what he is, he was able to kind of give not only Reggie what he needed. Granted, Reggie wanted to become a human, but even he's like, I can't make that happen for you. But for him, it's like, right, this journey, it was all for nothing. It's like, how did it really walk? How'd you walk away from nothing with nothing? It's like this journey helped you grow. It helped you change. You, Reggie, are a vampire like I've never seen any other. Like you at the end of the day really were my hero because only you could do what you did because there's no other vampire like you. Yes, he's made his mistakes, but he is smart. He is capable of being a kind person. He isn't always, just an asshole, so there's that. Plus he was able to help give Maurice peace. It's like, hey, your family is okay. Your mom and your family are okay. And I think Maurice really like I said, the entire episode I was like, come on, that's got, but the way he was talking to Maurice, I was like, oh no, like Maurice really is here. I was like, oh, but like I said, I don't know if that was by design or maybe because he knew that Maurice wasn't a threat. So that's why he kind of let Maurice just take the short road because it was all part of, hey, like this is a pivotal part in Reggie's, like I brought up earlier, part of Reginald's journey that Reggie's going to need his friend. I mean, as he kind of puts it later on, Maurice is more like a dad, and it's like that. It actually really, yeah, he's kind of, I mean, he is the one that sired you, so he's like a proud papa. It's like, yeah, like I do believe in you, Reginald, but obviously it's going to be tough. We're going to have like a slim chance, I did love that Maurice was like, yeah, don't go to Florida. It's like, oh, poor Florida. Because like anytime you ever hear from someone from Florida, more often than not, all I'm hearing is people from Florida shitting on Florida. I'm like, oh, Florida's god awful. I'm not saying that, but I'm just like, I just hear a handful of people say that. That's all I could interpret from that because it's like, right, Abraham was like, yeah, he's gonna go disappear, kind of continue living his life. Obviously he's back, but he's also telling Reggie like, hey, if you ever need anything from me, I got you. So always having that trump card in your back pocket. But for Reginald, it's time to go back, try and make amends, make things right with, I think, Sarah. I don't know if that's necessarily going to include Nikki. I don't know what you're going to do about the whole, well, you didn't murder Todd situation. But I think, obviously, approaching his gluttony situation a little bit differently. And then also making things right with Claire. And obviously, she has her whole circumstances too that once again we still don't know about, that maybe Reggie will finally find out about and ask about, because it's like, right, why do you want to become a vampire so much? Because he didn't really ask that question. He kind of has, but he hasn't really taken the time to listen. So, but also there's the assessment, but it's like, right, Reggie's promising Maurice like, oh, I'll find a way around this. So I think this was just kind of a beautiful journey, and I love that it obviously brought Maurice and Reggie together. And once again, that friends, that brotherly bros, not just brother, like not like brothers, but like bros, but also like father and son kind of dynamic. Because it's like, yeah, you're giving off like major dad energy right now. So I was like, that's actually pretty dope. I'm very excited to see where things ultimately end up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I want to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and good